What does it look like to leave a legacy? Is it important to start now? We're going to talk about these things with a special guest this week on Happy Hour. Welcome back to Happy Hour, your podcast for young adults here at the Cathedral of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. I'm Rick, as always, ever here, whether you can stand that or not. I am going to be here. And today, I do have an extremely special guest with me who has appeared before on our podcast. But, you know, there's been such great feedback on those ones that we did with you that we have to call you back. We need more advice and we need more life with you, special guest. Who are you, special guest?
I'm Dotty Roddy.
Dotty Roddy. So it's been a little bit since we had you on last.
Like 6 months.
It's been like 6 months, yeah. So we've done maybe a little bit more, somewhere in there. But we've had you on a couple of times, and young adults love hearing the advice that you have. And if you haven't heard that yet, please go back into our feed and listen to those. You'll see it. It'll say special guest Dotty. So look for that. Tremendous advice has been given already. But today we're going to look at really what I feel is an important aspect of our entire life and not just at the end of our life. We're going to talk about leaving a legacy. Dotty, I know when we started speaking about this in the beginning stages, there were a few subjects that I want to talk about for sure. But this one just really jumps out at us, I think, especially right now in today's day and age, where maybe we don't plan too far ahead anymore. We don't think about what it takes to leave a legacy that lasts forever, or even at least for a long time. I've attended a lot of funerals. I've had a lot of people in my life pass, and some I tend to remember like instantly. They're just people that you loved what they left behind. It still resonates with you, and in that way, it continues to live on, right? But it just doesn't happen all of a sudden. We'll talk about that with you. But first, how are you doing?
I'm great.
You're great?
I'm great as usual.
I love that. You always say great.
Well, I have a charmed life.
True.
I mean, God has been so generous to me that, as I say, I don't understand being down. I'm not wired for that.
That's right. Yeah. I tend to not be that way most of the time. I think I'm pretty upbeat, but I think you still got me beat. That's wonderful. I love seeing you. I love having conversations with you, and we're going to dive in today about legacy. Is that okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. I have a list of questions, which we've looked at a little bit. I had too big a list of questions before, and I'm not even sure we're going to get through all these because we're allotting 25 minutes, but we're going to do our best. We're going to kick it off right away with, what is a legacy? Like, how would you define what a legacy is, and what does it mean even to you, Dotty? I know what it means to me, but what does it mean to you?
A legacy, to me, is the history of my family.
Oh.
To me, it meant passing on anything that I had been given that helped me live the life I live, and then to realize I would pass that on, just simply being the experience of being a mother. I mean, whether you think you're not passing on what you're doing, because I'm a person that tries to walk the walk, not talk the talk.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that is how I started. And because I'm a very extremely organized person, which if you want any time to yourself, you learn to be when you have children in a big family. Mm-hmm. So
True.
And today I want to share how I've built my legacy. I say my legacy because there's so many people before me that go into this.
That's right.
It's almost like when my mother told me that when I held my first grandchild, I would understand life, that he was a product of all the people before me, going through me to my child, to him, and he would carry forward forever. So we're really immortal.
Oh, I love that. What great wisdom. That was your mom that told you that? Oh,
yes.
What a beautiful piece of wisdom. And here's the funny part. When you were saying that, it reminded me, I've been I've been fortunate enough to be a worker in the vineyard for 28 years with the church. And in that time, I have had youth group kids who have grown up to be adults, who have grown up to have their own children. And I have had some of these people tell me, I will never be like my mom. I got news for you. I know you as an adult with children now. Guess who you're exactly like, your mom. And so you're right. It is so much of what has gone before us that currently has made us and molded us into who we are. So we're going to, I'm so interested to hear about not just your legacy, but the legacy of your forefathers and mothers and all that have poured into you. So if you had to give some advice to our young adults who maybe haven't even started thinking about what a legacy is or about leaving one yet, what would you give, and how can they even begin to build a legacy? I mean, some of our young adult listeners are, late teens, early 20s, mid 20s. What can they do, and what advice would you give them?
Well, as I think I told you before, being very organized, I have done goals and objectives for all of my life. And it's interesting because my grandchildren, as you know, I have 16 grandchildren, have come to me and say, how did you become who you are? Mm-hmm. Hopefully that's a good thing, right?
Right.
And I've done it through literally goals and objectives. The first thing you have to do is time, which I keep trying to tell, get off the gerbil wheel, time, silence, and think about what is your lifetime goal. That's number one. Mm-hmm. What do you, if people just had one sentence about you when you died, what would you like that to be?
Oh,
yeah.
What would be on your tombstone?
So literally every quarter, I do goals and objectives. Now, this all started in my 20s. And as I said, I'm 83, be 84 this year. And I just don't know how not to do that. You first have your lifetime, then you come down to what do you want to accomplish this goal? What do you want to make sure of? And then after that, I do it by quarter. You can do it by month. You can do it however you want to do it. What I want to accomplish. And when you say what I want to accomplish, that is things like, as mundane as my gate needs to be fixed. I need to see so-and-so. So-and-so's coming to visit me. And that does many different things. Because in my yearly goals, it's balance. If I can give anybody advice, it's balance. That's physically, mentally, spiritually. Those are the three areas for me.
Nice.
Physically, it's exercising, keeping yourself in good shape. And for those of you that know me, know that I practically have a charm bracelet of all of the things that are wrong with me. But that's neither here nor there. Physically.
Not mentally. I have one for mental problems that I have. I have a huge charm bracelet.
But take care of the medical issues, because that's the creation that God gave you, and you should certainly take care of it. Mentally, don't get too many obligations. Again, that helps you. When you see what all you want to accomplish in that quarter, you begin to think, well, learn to say no when it's no and yes when it's yes. Yeah. This is about you and how you treat yourself. Spiritually, being Catholic, it's a very easy thing. For me, it's doing, as I say, talking to God every morning, liturgy of the hours. I also use another book because I'm a fixer and codependent, or I was codependent. Hopefully I've gotten somewhere in all these years. It's called Let Go. I can't remember. But letting go is the crux. And that I have given to so many enablers, and just look at it. It's teaching you to treat yourself nicely. If you can't love yourself, you can't really love someone else.
True.
Quit going around and changing your life and being miserable when it's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you're certainly there, and there's a difference between being helpful and fixing it for them.
Right.
So that's another. And then I text to others every morning. I have a pad that my daughter-in-law gave me that's a prayer list. And I try to stay in touch with many generations, which is, I'm so fortunate because I have so many young friends as well. Now, understand with me, 60-year-old is young, but 40 years old. And as a matter of fact, a group I have that I mentored over the years, who asked to be mentored over the years, you know, they have their own businesses. they just, it's wonderful because they still have me for dinner. We eat dinner once a month. And this is a safe group. And if you ever find that, it doesn't matter what ages you are, but people who truly care about you, who truly, you need somebody, you need community to be able to bounce off things and be assured that they're not going anywhere else.
Right.
And for these girls, I think it was because they'd asked me in years past, I have this situation at work. How would you handle that? Well, that's what the beauty of being old, I guess is what you say, because old is just a number, as we all know.
That's right.
Then when I get down to my specifics, objectives, it's things like the dock cabinet needs cleaning, the dock needs cleaning, attend a grandson's wedding, go to a graduation of another grandchild, visit my niece. My late sister's oldest child came down to visit me. Now, she's over 65 now, and it was just like a shot in the arm. My sister died at 53, and it was like my sister was back again.
Wow.
You know?
Oh.
It was wonderful. As I said before, have the gate painted and get an estimate, and it's been done. I love to check.
Yes, I love checking things off too.
Oh, I do too.
It's so fun.
I do too. But,
it's satisfying.
And if you stay by the first thing, which my lifetime goal is to make a difference. That's all it was and is. That I somehow didn't just take up space.
I love that.
And this is the way I'm able to do that. It keeps me balanced in that, as I said, physically, this is what I do. Mentally, this is what I do. And spiritually, this is what I do.
Well, I know we're not doing a video podcast today, but if we were, people would see that I'm jotting down notes left and right. And I just want to share, because that's a lot of wisdom in there, in that one answer. 3 things that I really am going to take, just personally, I'm going to take away from all that you just mentioned. Number 1 was that while you have your goals, they are specific. Yes. And I think that's super important that we have specific goals, because I've seen people say things like, let's say we're doing a spiritual goal. Well, I'm going to pray more. That's not specific, and it won't happen. You might start, but it'll wane. But if you say, every day when I wake up, I'm going to pray for 5 minutes. I'm going to get up 5 minutes, or I'm going to pray. That's specific. Those tend to stick, right? And it's measurable. So I like that. The second thing, which you were quoting scripture, and I don't know if you knew it or not, but you were basically saying, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Yeah. That you do have to say no, and that's okay. But when you say yes, you're all in. Like that's your word, and it's only as good as you are, right? So your word gives truth to who you are, and vice versa, right?
Yes, and one thing I want to mention here when you say your yes, remember, you have the fortune of all the people who came before you who had a good reputation, and you start out with a foot up.
Oh, true.
From a family, and are you going to be the one to drop the ball?
Oh,
no.
Oh, good call. You know, I have several children of my own, and they go to school, and of course, everybody knows me. I walk around, hey, Mr. Rick, da, 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 da. When they find out that one of my kids is one of my kids, they bear my name. And that holds weight. So however they act, that teacher, those students, right? That is my name that they're bearing. So it is a reflection of all those that have gone before. Very good. My last point that I wrote down was the intentionality of commitments, of our commitments too. You were mentioning how you're specific. I'm going to go to my grandson's ball game. There's real intentionality of sitting down and saying, okay, I could be busy. There's a lot of things that can keep us busy. But I want to be intentional about what's keeping me busy, what I'm doing. Balance. There it is. So I wrote those 3 things down on this one question, which, Dotty, I'm just going to tell you right now, there's no way we're getting through all our questions today, which by the way, must mean that we're going to have a part 2. So you get ready. So we're going to keep moving. Let's move on to my next question, which is, how do you believe leaving a legacy can bring a sense of fulfillment and purpose to our lives? And if you have any personal example of that, that would be great.
Well, obviously, if I've been working on this and wanting people to just remember I made a difference, all of these things I'm talking about lead to that. It's very logical.
Yeah.
And being in my community, and I think now, when I was thinking back when you sent me these questions, I said, oh my gosh, I was involved in like the original Saving the Bijou and these kind of things, Leadership Knoxville, all these both social and community things. My family, or my husband's family, was in the Coca-Cola business, and everybody's your customer.
Sure.
So you are involved in everything that's going on, but you also have to be willing to sit on boards, to participate in all of these things. The last 20 years, I spent redoing gardens at a Trappist monastery in South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
And if for no other reason, people will say to me, I can remember when I would be, because I was a patron of theirs, they'd come up and they'd say, you look so familiar. And I'd say, I'll tell you why you don't recognize me, because I'm usually in my garden clothes and a funny Japanese hat on a gator. And they're like, oh, and of course I'm standing there in my silk dress and my jewelry and all the rest. They didn't get it. But that's a great example of creating a legacy simply for my benefit and their benefit too. Because I'd had something happen that was not pleasant, and I have to build something. When something negative happens, I have to do something that will help others.
It struck me, there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but look to serve, not to be served. And that really echoes, right? Because I think everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be taken care of, right? We all do. We all. So if you're willing to provide that for others, and of course, allowing people to serve you as well, right?
That's the hard.
For me, that's a really hard one.
As old as I am, and at losing more and more, being able to do certain things. It's very easy to give, I can tell you that, but it is not so easy to receive. Yeah,
I think too, because when I see things that I could clearly do myself, and in my mind, I could clearly do them better, it's very difficult to let go.
You're a fixer.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, 100% I am. So that's one of the things I really struggle with, is being able to just allow people to be Christians. And that's how I get it through my thick skull is, hey, if you do everything, you're not allowing people to serve, and you're not allowing them to be Christ. So shame on you. Let them do it. Train them up,
it's
and
like
journey
your
with them.
children.
Yeah.
They're going to have to experience some terrible things.
Yes,
Don't
true.
be a helicopter.
Yes.
Yeah. You need, because that's the only way they're going to learn. You can tell them, but sometimes they have to live it. Well,
because then what happens when they do when you're not there to fix something, and they do come up against it, and they don't know how to deal with that, right? So that's an excellent point. My goodness. Okay, so oh boy, I'm going to skip this next question because I want to hear any stories or examples of individuals who have left a powerful impact on you, their legacy on you. Why were their legacies so remarkable?
Well, you're going to be surprised.
Oh,
But
boy.
I didn't read it that way, but immediately the Haslam family came to mind.
Yeah.
Here are people very successful who have done so much for this community, who our community, the face of our community is because of these people. And it is selfless. A lot of people don't get it, that they don't have to give. There's a lot of people that resent the fact that they have been so successful. But how can you short? I mean, we're talking millions of dollars here.
Yeah.
And I see Randy Boyd now and his wife, they're doing the same thing. And I mean, that has a tremendous, an example of, to me, of the goodness of our community.
Yeah.
And they participate, and for the Haslams, it's generational.
Yeah.
You know, even their kids and their grandchildren are doing this.
Which that's where you see the value, the family value passed on, right?
And they didn't do it, you know, to have their name all over everything.
Yeah.
And there's so much they do that nobody has them.
Right. They'll never know.
Yeah.
They'll never know this side of heaven, right?
Right.
I do love that so much, that our values, and it's pretty easy. So I've heard that you can see someone's values by what they celebrate and what they tolerate. But I also really believe you see someone's values when you pay attention to where they spend their money and where they spend their time. That's what people value, because those are valuable, that we don't want those to go to what we see as a waste. We only want to put those things into something that we see contains a value. So you want to know what people value, find out where they spend their money, find out where they spend their time, and then you know what their values are. Now, families that leave that legacy, that the impression is that we this is who we are. This is what we do. And congratulations, you're now a part of it. Now, whether you choose to continue that legacy, continue those values, that is on you. So for instance, for you, Dotty, you've been built up over generations. People have impressed upon you, your family, your parents, they've impressed upon you their values. You grew up in these values, but it's up to you whether you see them as valuable or not. So when you see, for instance, when you mentioned, your mom talking about when you hold your first grandchild, then you'll understand life. That's a value. That's a value of human life, right? And then how that speaks to our fulfillment of who we are. But you didn't have to carry on that value, right? You could have said, Mom, you're crazy. I don't want to have kids. I want to just focus in on this. Those values are old-fashioned. They don't even make sense. I think sometimes we tend to think things don't have value because they're outdated. In our minds, they're outdated. One thing I found, though, Dotty, truth is always truth. Always. From the beginning of time until now.
Well, and I want to tell, of course, this is a young adult, so they wouldn't have teenagers yet. I always
They
tell
will one day, though.
Yes, and as I always told my kids, the only reason I let you live was so I'd have grandchildren, which is the payoff. For all of it. And now I have 6 great-grandchildren.
Do you really?
Yes,
oh,
I
my
do.
goodness.
And but if you can just remember when they're teenagers and they're trying their wings and, kicking you in the shins, you've put it in those early years. It will come out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen it in my own family that, again, values. If you can simply be a good parent, not their best friend
Right.
at that point.
Correct.
But of the parent, the lady with the black hat is probably how my children would, oh, there she is, here she comes, So,
Of course, meaning you're the one bringing the hammer in the family, right?
Yeah.
Like this is how it is, and you will fall in line because
as long as your feet are under my table.
There it
as
is.
they say, yeah.
I love that phrase. As long as your feet are under my table.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've got one final question that we'll get to, okay?
Okay.
Here it is. What do you hope people will remember most about you and the legacy that you leave behind?
Easy. That I made a difference.
It's that simple, huh?
It's that simple.
But you're so specific with all your things. How could it possibly be that simple, Dotty? you,
all of these things we've talked about made a difference.
So some of these differences that you've made, Dotty, you're able to see. So clearly when you speak about your group of people that you still mentor, but are not, maybe that relationship has evolved as well. So that's clear. That's visual. You can see that. But there are so many more impacts that you will never know you had. The difference that you have made in people's lives, you may never know on this side of heaven.
Well, having thought I was going to die, as everyone else did with the cancer, I had 2 letters from my children's friends. Both of them were very similar, thanking me. This is how I knew they thought I was going to die, when they start writing you these letters and cards and telling you stuff like this. That when they were a teenager, something I did with them or for them changed their life, the direction they were going, and that they were basing their parenting on me.
Wow.
How cool is that?
That's amazing.
But then I lived.
And they're still doing it, I guarantee it. And the beauty of that too, Dotty, is that you said it earlier. You live forever that way, don't you?
Absolutely.
Your time here on earth echoes in eternity, not just in heaven, but here on earth as well. And I, we were speaking a little bit before we started the podcast, but we were of the same mind that I think people tend to remember the extremes more than what's in the middle. So usually we remember the people who are really kind to us. We also remember the people who are really unkind to us. And really the question of the day, every day that we wake up is when you come in face to face with somebody, am I going to bless this person or am I going to curse this person? Right? Am I going to have them remember me for my good or for my evil? And that's really the choice that we have, which will echo into eternity, not just here, but in the next life as well. Dotty, so much wisdom. I personally am going to go back and listen to this again, and I'm going to make sure that my oldest sons are listening as well, because they are young adults, so they need to hear this valuable, truly valuable information. I cannot thank you enough for coming on once again and blessing us with your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh,
I don't, it's
that's the easy part for me.
As I tell my mentoring girls, it's worth what you're paying me. Nothing.
I love it.
It's like anything else. When you have been given so much, obviously you owe big.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you paying it forward here on this podcast. And listen, if you're hearing this now and you like what you hear, don't just keep it to yourself. There are so many more people that need to hear this. Share it with them. Like, subscribe, send it out into everywhere. Thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Happy Hour.